get more new customers, increase the transaction size, and increase the average amount of time somebody does business with you.
Welcome back to the Teach Traffic podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks, and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. I have a very special guest today whose name is Charles Gaudet, who has done so much stuff. He has written a best-selling book called Predictable Profits Playbook and is also the founder of a Speed to Scale program, which I believe we're going to be talking a little bit about today. He's been featured in Fox Business, Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, you name it. This man is everywhere. So welcome to today's show, Charlie.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Ilana. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you. For those of you who don't know, I've actually known Charlie or Charles for many, many years before both of us even started on this entrepreneurial journey. And it's just nice that we've come full circle and now we're on this call together today.
Isn't that cool? I mean, seriously, I have known you, I believe, since 1997. You believe that?
1998, I think it was.
Yeah. You believe that? That's been amazing. That's amazing.
It is amazing. And do you know what? I still remember the first time I met you. I don't know if you remember, but I do. Do you want me to tell you the story?
Have time for those stories, I mean. Those back in the crazy college days.
College days. For those of you who don't know, I did a semester at Babson College in America. So a little Aussie went all the way to the other side of the world to this college in the middle of nowhere in Boston. And one of the first couple of days I was there, I was so shy and I got dragged along to this fraternity party, which I couldn't believe actually really did exist because I'd seen them in the movies and I thought surely they're not real, but yes, they were. And I saw you standing on the stairs in this party with your UNSW sweater. For those of you who don't know, UNSW is the university that I was going to in Australia. So I saw that. I'm like, this guy is going to be my friend because he's got a UNSW jumper and that's where I go to school.
That's awesome. And it didn't take long before we were good buddies. So
it's crazy, crazy. Anyway, back on track. So welcome and thank you for spending time on this particular episode with us. You have done so much in the world of online marketing. I feel like it's an episode in itself just explaining your journey, but to abbreviate your background, do you want to give us a bit of an overview of what you've done?
Sure. So, I've actually been an entrepreneur since I was the age of 4. I know. I was selling artwork to my neighbors at the age of 4. And I started young, not because I was necessarily born an entrepreneur, but because my dad worked every waking hour of every day. And like many entrepreneurs, I'm sure can relate. And when he had a good day, he'd come home and say, hey, son, if you want to be something and make something yourself, you got to be an entrepreneur. And when he had a bad day, he would come home and say, son, employees suck. Don't ever be an employee.
Wow.
And so the only time I saw my dad up until I was in the 3rd grade was, if I happened to get up early in the morning or if I had to catch him, if I happened to be up late at night because he worked all the time. And so to earn my father's affection, I became an entrepreneur. And, through that time, I did a lot of odd jobs and, whether it was painting or it was landscaping or whatnot, I always found a way to do something and create something on my own, which eventually led me to go to Babson, where you and I met, which is known as one of the nation's best colleges for entrepreneurship. In fact, it's been ranked #1 for decades.
Wow.
And so from Babson, where all my classmates were applying for jobs, I decided I was just going to burn the bridge and take the island and continue my entrepreneurial journey. And through that process, we created one of the world's first pet health insurance companies.
Really?
The challenge, yeah. The challenge, though, with pet health insurance was that we were way ahead of our time.
Interesting.
And so we recruited in a team of A-plus players, some of the top insurance sales people in the world, some executives, some big insurance companies and whatnot. And then the market crashed in 2008. all our money, all our seed money dried up, and the venture capital money or the angel investor money that we were promised, several $1,000,000, we didn't end up getting. Now, the good news is we created a good foundation, a good start. And Ernst & Young nominated us as having one of the nation's best seed stage companies. And we were selected as such by Venture One. And we were all in all these newspapers and whatnot, including, in different languages. We couldn't even read what was being said about us.
Amazing.
So, it was a good, humbling experience. And then about a couple months later, I ended up starting another business, real estate development business. And before long, I found myself in over $1 million in debt, personal debt, mind you. And so that was an interesting situation. I fell into the same trap that my dad was in when I was younger. I worked every waking hour of every day. And eventually what ended up happening is, when I say I worked every waking hour of every day, I didn't just go to bed and wake up on my own. I would work until I couldn't until I couldn't stay awake anymore. And then I'd go to bed, and let's say I got up at midnight to go to the bathroom. That's when I started working. But I always set my alarm for 3:30 in the morning so I wouldn't, quote unquote, oversleep.
Wow.
And, I lived on caffeine and adrenaline. And then over time that caught up with me. And I'm driving home, and as I see my house in the corner of my eye, and all of a sudden I started getting this pain shooting up through the right, at the base of my spine, all the way up through my neck and to the top of my head. And I realized, I'm not going home today. And I ended up in the emergency room, and the doctor ran a whole bunch of tests, and he said, okay, well, here's the deal. What you're going through right now is a result of stress. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, no kidding. I'm in an over $1 million worth of debt. I've got, hundreds of individual subcontractors running around everywhere. Yeah, no crap, Sherlock. Of course it's stress.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the issue is you're not sleeping, you're not taking care of yourself nutritionally, and with the amount of stress that you're under right now, your organs are starting to shut down, and the pain that you're experiencing and the symptoms that you're experiencing is your body shutting down. I don't know how else to put it, but you're dying.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, what? And he's like, you are killing yourself, and so this can't continue much longer. And so that was a wake-up call for me. I'm in my early 20s, and I'm told that the only strategy that I knew to work hard couldn't work anymore. And so that was the turning point, actually, in my life. People say you do things out of desperation or inspiration. And for me, this was definitely both, right? I was inspired to make something of myself, but I was desperate because I had to make different decisions.
Yeah. That's not a wake-up call, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, it was scary. I could go on what I went through. Oh, my God. Yeah, it feels like a different life. I couldn't sleep at night. Heather, my wife, who she would make me a cocktail every night so that it would take the edge off. And then I couldn't sleep in my bed. So I would have to fall asleep on the couch watching TV. And then once I could fall asleep, then she would grab me and bring me to bed, and I could sleep in my bed. But then I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't fall back asleep. And if it was too early to get up to work, she would have to rub my back to put me back to sleep again. That's insane, right?
Yeah, totally.
But this was my life. But then the funny thing is after this incident in the hospital, we made a few strategic decisions that I managed to pay off all my debt and create my first multi-million-dollar business in about a year's time.
Amazing. So do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, more than happy to. So, what we started to look at was, I hear this phrase all the time, and I'm sure you've heard it too. You got to work smarter, not harder, right?
Yes.
We hear that all the time, but it always seems like just words. We're never actually finding out ways in which we could actually, turn that into practical application. And so we started looking at our business differently. And, we're selling property at this point. Most people look at it as a simple transaction. You own property, then you sell it, you collect money, and that's it. Or in our case, we're building houses. So you build a house for somebody, that's it. So we looked at it and we said, well, what can we do to actually drive a bigger result for our clients and do it in a way that presents them with a huge advantage so that people will not only be happy to pay premium pricing for our property, but then also be willing to give us more and more money. And so through that process, we created an experience where we made the house building process a lot easier. So just by the way, we would take them by the hand and, have them being able to customize their experience so their house became a home. That was something that was important that helped us to get more premium pricing. And, we did different things that, I won't go into details, but where we left more trees up than everybody else because we knew that's what, clients liked. But we also, in the beginning, I needed to find ways in which I could get more money up front. And so I found out that the banks will lend construction loans. And now I'm not going to give you the details of like the real estate and the construction loans and whatnot, because I think that's going to put most of the people on this podcast to sleep. But here's what I'm going to tell you, which is interesting. In the beginning, I wanted people to collect construction loans. So I would tell people, look, if you don't do a construction loan, right? So this house is for sale via construction loan. If you don't do a construction loan, I'm going to have to charge you $10,000 more. And I thought I could do that because I saw others of my competitors getting away and doing that themselves. But I noticed I was getting a lot of pushback. And I'm like, it seems like a penalty. It seems like I'm punishing people if they decide not to do a construction loan. So then I changed it. I raised the prices of everything that I did, all the properties that I was selling by $10,000. And then I said to them, you know what? Here's the price, but if you want to save $10,000, you can get a construction loan.
Yeah. Nice.
And then all of a sudden, people are like, wow, that's awesome. And so we ended up tons of people getting construction loans. And the way we saved $10,000 is we gave people a $10,000 credit towards all upgrades in their home. Well, guess what? The upgrades didn't cost me $10,000. Right? So the same thing when you look at it from a payment plan, right? If you're looking to grow your business and you're charging $10,000 for a particular $10,000, right?
Yep.
Or you want $10,000. You ask yourself the same question, right? Well, okay, so what do I want? I ultimately want $10,000. That's my bottom line. $10,000 is what I ultimately want. But I know that a lot of people can't afford $10,000. So what can I do? Well, what if I made them payment plans of a 12-part payment plan of $997? Well, at $997, a 12-part payment plan equals $12,000. So I guess I'll get more clients if they come in at $12,000, but I really want that $10,000. So how can I make that more attractive? No problem. Tell them, look, here, what we can do is we can get you in at this program at $997 a month for 12 months. Wow, that sounds awesome. Well, here's the thing. I can instantly save you $2,000 and I'll give you this benefit, and this benefit if you want to pay in full today. The savings plus the additional benefits become so damn attractive, you're going to get a lot more people paying you that $10,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, total sense. Price anchoring, I think they call it, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know if that sounds about right. Price anchoring. I think that might be the right word.
I think that's...
Yeah, I don't know. I just do it. A lot of this stuff I do. I don't even know if there's an official term. And if there isn't one, I'll make up an official term. Right? So, that's just like, we did that, and we did joint venture opportunities where we said, what are all the different ways that our clients could benefit from, what can we do to drive bigger results and make them even happier? So we made relationships with television companies and landscaping companies and patio furniture companies and home alarm theater companies and home furniture companies. And we went on and on and on. We went to each person. We said, look, I've got a whole bunch of clients that I can send to you. But in order for me to send you these clients, you have to promise me you're going to give them a preferred advantage that you're not going to give to anybody else. And when you do happen to make the sale, I want to have a small percentage of that sale. I want you to be able to, to pay me that. And we just did that, not because we saw anybody else doing it, because nobody else was doing it. But the result of that ended up, we were making tens of thousands of dollars a month from these referrals. Our clients are super happy because we gave them a preferred result that nobody else was getting. Our vendor partners were excited because they were getting clients that they didn't have to pay for because I, referred them over to them. And so everybody's winning. And then one day I got a knock on my door, and it's my accountant from a big accounting firm in Boston. And he says, Charlie, we need to talk. And I'm like, well, this sounds serious. And he's like, come in, let's talk. So I said, come on in. He sits down at my breakfast table and he goes, all right, well, here's the deal. You're paying fair value for your properties. You're selling them at fair value, yet you've got one of the highest profit margins in the entire industry. And I can't figure it out. What the hell are you doing?
Wow.
It was because of our joint venture opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Amazing.
we did that. And so, then I created a proprietary stock trading company where we ran, millions of dollars in markets, and I did it all algorithmically. And that was the first time I really kind of built in systems, which I carry now into the businesses that I run. And, we did that and a few other things. And that brought me to the company that I have now, Predictable Profits. And, we've all these experiences and everything that we've done, we've helped companies create pretty remarkable results.
So let's talk about that. So about Predictable Profits, and I believe you have a program called Speed to Scale. Is that right?
You got it.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, like I experienced, entrepreneurs get to the point where they've built their business to where it is right now because they've been working hard. And they finally realize, I can't work any harder than I'm working right now, but I want to be able to take my business to another level. How do I do that? That's usually when people call us in. We put strategies and systems in place to take their business over to that next level. The most interesting thing about what it is that we do is most people think the answer to their problem is to get more new clients, right? To get more traffic. You probably hear this all the time, being the expert in your business. Get more traffic to be the solution, or get more clients. And
clients are always about, I need more new leads.
Absolutely. And I get that. But one of the things that I think that people find more remarkable is that they have the capacity to double their business without really doing or spending any more money than they're spending right now. Now, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be acquiring clients, be it pay-per-click or anything else, because that's really smart. And if you want to dominate your marketplace, it's a really smart decision. You should do that. There's tons of opportunity internally in which you can increase your revenues. A perfect example was a woman that I worked with had a database that she was marketing to on a consistent basis, but there was a tweak that she was missing inside of her emails. And we showed her how if she just applied a few psychological triggers in her emails, that she could increase her conversions. And she took 2 emails, and just with those 2 emails, she was able to increase her month-to-month sales by 100%.
Incredible. The thing, it doesn't really take much to make a big difference to the bottom line, clearly.
No, there's a lot of ways in which, Jay Abraham talks about there's only 3 ways to grow a business, right?
Yep.
Get more new customers. You can, which is where everybody focuses on. There's increase your average transaction size.
Yep.
So if your average transaction size is 1,000, increase it to 20% up to 1,200. And the other one is increase it by frequency. So it's get more new customers, increase the transaction size, and increase the average amount of time somebody does business with you. That's the only 3 ways to grow a business, right?
Yep.
But most people are focusing in on only the first way. So they're ignoring 66% of the formula for growing their business.
Exactly.
And even still, when they're focusing in on getting new customers, 9 times out of 10, when we're diving into it, and we say, okay, so you want to get new customers, what is your process for following up with the people who say no? And they look at me kind of weird, like, what do you mean? What do you mean say no? And it's like, well, you're not, most businesses aren't selling more than 50% of the people who inquire. In fact, if you have an online business and you're converting 3% of the people that visit your website, you're doing really good. Wouldn't you agree, Alana?
Yeah, totally. The average conversion rate.
Right. If you're selling a product, it's 3%. If you're going for, if you're a dentist and you've got a conversion page and you're getting phone calls and whatnot, hopefully you can convert more than 3% on a phone call. So those metrics are a little bit different. But even still, you're still going to get more people saying no to you than yes. So how do you convert those no's into more yeses? How do you convert the people that you had sales calls with, decided not now? How do you convert those into more sales?
So what's one of the ways that you can do that?
The funny thing is, and this is one of those, no kidding moments, but I find that most people don't have a formalized follow-up process.
I would say that's true.
Or
I think people probably feel offended, if somebody says no, oh, okay, I don't want to hassle them anymore. It's like they've almost taken it personally.
It's funny because I'm actually going to say that you're right. I do see that a lot. But at the end of the day, people have inquired because they're interested, right? They've raised a hand and they said that they're interested. Now, there are 2 types of people out there. There's the type of people that believe in what's called ABC, always be closing. And then there's the other type of people out there that decide that what they want to do is they want to build a tribe. That what they don't want is they don't want just another client. What they do want is they do want a fan. And, Alana, are you an Apple fan by chance?
I am.
As am I. Did you get the new X?
Do you know, I'm on the fence. I'm due for a new phone and I am tempted, but I mean, if I was a true devotee, then it wouldn't even be a question. That's the truth. I'm hesitating, to be honest. But I mean, it's not like I'm going to get the 8 or the 10. It's not whether Apple or not.
Sure. And if let's just pretend for a minute that you did want the X, and on November 3rd, they went live to sell the X. What would you have had to have done to ensure that you got your hands on an X on November 3rd?
Lined up like those images float around the web of those crazy people lining up.
And what time would you have had to have been there?
Like 3 a.m.
Right. I mean, 3 a.m. My wife and I ordered it online, and we got up at 2:58 a.m. to order it online.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so let me ask you a question. What other company do you know of, or product or service, where you would get your customers to go, or your clients to go out of their way to do business with you?
Yeah.
Can you think of another one?
Not really.
Yeah, it's tough. And so the question that we ask ourselves is, we're not asking our clients to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do business with us, but we're asking ourselves, what would have to happen in order to ask our clients to go even a little bit out of their way in order to do business with us? And that's the difference between creating fans and building a tribe versus just ABC, always be closing.
I'm not a fan of the ABC. It just feels too salesy. It's just awful, don't you think?
I think you're right. And, a lot of people feel proud when they can say, oh, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. I could sell steak to a cow, bacon to a pig. And it's like, why? Why should you be proud of that? Yeah. Look, that would have been cool prior to 2010 when companies had all the power and companies could control the flow of information and what consumers knew about a product or service. But since 2010, when that balance has shifted, and it's shifted forever now, where consumers have all the power. We have access to everything we want in the palm of our hands. The average consumers, especially in B2B, right? They're looking at 94% of B2B buyers are looking at several different sources of information before doing business with you. 100%. You can't sell the wrong client the right product.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen if I sell you something, so you are one of the top experts in pay-per-click traffic and media buying, Ilana. So if I go over to you and I have unrealistic expectations and you sell me your services, who am I going to blame? You or me for having the wrong expectations?
Well, me.
Right, I'm going to blame you, and then I'll write you a bad review and all that other stuff. And that's why it's important for people to understand that you don't want to sell the wrong person the right product. You got to sell the right person the right product, and that's how it works. Or sometimes you have the right person, but unfortunately, you're just not the right person to deliver on what it is that they need. And at that point, you just, create some sort of win-win situation, so they still feel like they're better off having spoken with you than not talked with you at all. And that's how you kind of build a tribe of referrals, a tribe of customers who will go to bat for you and defend you, who will go to bat for you and want to support you. We have a company in town who the company was actually, it's a local business, and they, like a lot of local businesses, were losing a lot of business to the big companies, right? It was a bookstore losing a lot of business over to Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. And so they reached out to the community and they said, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, we just can't compete with these big box stores and Amazon. It looks like we're going to have to close the doors. And you know what the community did?
They rallied around.
They rallied around, and years later, the business is still around. But that's what happens when you create fans. And you can do that even in online marketing. Find out what it is that you can do to help your clients produce a greater result, even if you're not getting paid for it in advance. Frank Kern coined this results in advance. What can you do to give your clients the results in advance? Come off so cool that your clients become raving fans and they love you, right? And you can give tips and information. And you just don't do it in a salesy way. You do it in a way so that people can take actionable advice and start to get some sort of experience, start to get a taste of what it would be like working with you.
And then, it's building trust in a relationship. And if you can't build that at the start, people feel like they're being sold to. It's just doesn't, how they're going to trust you later. It's such a trustworthy relationship that you have with people.
I am super, super glad that you said that, because in 2017, Edelman's, who does a study on trust and consumer trust, they reported an unprecedented drop in trust, a larger drop than anything they've ever experienced in the times that they have been studying trust, right? So what does that tell you? That when somebody is looking to do business with you, are they coming to you and thinking out of the cold that they're going to trust you or not trust you?
Yeah.
They don't have any prior relationship with you. Do they trust you or not trust you right off the bat?
Not at all. And fair enough. I'd probably be the same.
Right. They don't trust you coming off cold with no relationship. They don't trust you, and now you're asking them to buy from you right off the bat. And that's not ultimately what's going to end up happening, right? Now you got somebody who coming off the street, you got to build that relationship with them. You got to build trust. You got to put your best foot forward and deliver those results in advance. Show them that you're the real deal. I mean, part of what you're doing right now, which is fantastic by creating these podcasts, I mean, you're spending your time, you're spending your money, and you're going out there and sharing great advice and tips, not only from yourself, but for research, because part of that is building your tribe. People are going to, they're going to value the information that you're sharing with you, and then that you're sharing with them, and progressively that plants a seed for a much longer, more fruitful, profitable relationship.
It's interesting. I have the privilege of talking to business owners all the time, and each business is at a different point in their journey. Some are starting out, some are really well established, and often the ones that are starting out, let's say they come to me, they want Facebook ad management, and I'll often say to them, okay, so, have you got a sales funnel in place? And, oh, no. I said, okay, come back to me when you've got a sales funnel, and they immediately go, oh, okay, I need a sales funnel. I'm like, well, that's right, because you're going to have to provide value up front with your Facebook ads. How are you going to convert them later? I said, I can get you leads, but unless you've got a process to convert those leads into sales, there's no point filling your pipeline with these leads, because you're going to spend all this money, and then what are you going to do? And people really value that kind of that pushback from me, because I'm like, I don't want your money now, and because ultimately in 3 months' time, if they do become a client, if I had taken them on, they're going to be like, well, I'm spending all this money. What am I getting for it? Well, exactly, right? I can get you the leads, but beyond that, I can't help you. So unless you've got that in place, then what's the point,
I can't tell you how many times somebody will call us either because they were referred by somebody, or they read an article about us somewhere or whatnot, or they read my book and they're like, all right, I'd love to become a client. Where do I sign up? And we immediately come back with, I appreciate that. And I love the vote of confidence, but I don't know if I want to work with you yet. And right away, they're like, what? What do you mean? It's like, well, I need to make sure that I'm really going to be the right fit for you, and that I can deliver the results that are going to make a difference for your company. Because first of all, our results are guaranteed. So we need to really make sure that we are producing. But second of all, we take pride in being trusted advisors, and we want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And the funny thing is when you're honest with people like that, not only do they like you more and they start to trust you more, but the side effect, believe it or not, is they start selling you as opposed to you selling them.
100%. I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me. I actually turned people away lots of times, much to the surprise of them. Just for that example I used before with not having a sales, come back to me when and then they start sending me people. It's quite interesting.
That's awesome.
Which is, I didn't ask for it. It's just I'm looking out for them. And I really am, because I always say to clients, I'm not going to commit you, for a year of my services. We go month by month, because if you're not happy, then that I'm not happy. And I like to deal with happy people. And that's the dead honest truth. Like, I just want to deal with happy people. Like, I don't want to lock someone in if we're not getting results. That's not good for me. That's not good for them,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, back on track. So for your, I guess your sweet spot of where you can provide the most value for people and really get the biggest result, who would you say it's the best fit for? Like, for example, if you could wave your magic wand and you see a business that has got certain things in place that they're not doing, like, who would you say that is? Like, where can somebody get the biggest results? What kind of business?
So One of the ways or the number one way where we've been able to drive the fastest, most efficient growth possible is businesses that have momentum, right? And so if you're struggling to grow your business, you don't have a strategy problem. What you actually have is a momentum problem. That's the reason why it's a lot easier for you to go from 100 clients to 200 clients than it is for you to go from 0 clients to your first hundreds.
I couldn't agree with you more. 100%.
And so what we look for is businesses that are past that startup phase, that are in that phase where they have a proven product, a proven concept, they have some momentum, but for whatever reason, they're stuck. They can't seem to get beyond the revenue level that they're at right now.
So they're plateaued.
They're plateaued. They say things like, my business is losing out to competitors. I can't seem to get above a certain frustrating level of sales. Our sales aren't automatic, regular, or consistent. I keep doing more and more, but it's working less and less. Or they're feeling like their business has become commoditized and they're competing on price consistently and they don't know how to raise their prices. Or they feel like their marketing, for whatever reason, isn't producing the results that it should, or it's effective, and they just don't know what to do next. And of course, like many business owners too, they're just doing everything themselves and they've got no leverage and they just, they're stuck. And that's the point where, we've been at this enough. Right now, we're working with 50 entrepreneurs in a whole bunch of different industries, most of them service-related industries, whether they're coaches, consultants, experts. We have B2B companies, national advertising agencies. We've got people in the health field. We've got financial traders who are doing trading education. We've got, people in all walks of life, but they all have sort of that sort of criteria where they want to get more out of their existing business, and they're looking for a little strategy and how to leverage their existing momentum to just blow that up.
So
that's what we can help.
A database of a certain size, perhaps.
It's funny that you say that, and of course, it's easier. We talked about expectations earlier, and I've taken a company that was doing $250,000 a year, and I was able to take that company and grow it. I made them more money in a couple weeks than they made an entire year combined, right? But I was able to do that because they had a massive database. So it was easy because we could set the expectations that, look, you've got a huge database, but you haven't. The follow-up process can be improved. The communication, the offers and whatnot that you're making them, they can be improved. All this stuff, you got good momentum, just need to make a few different tweaks, and boom, all of a sudden, just massive performance. Then we're working with a client that he really had a small business, been at it for a little while, never really spent the time to build out a database. And so for him to go from, 0 to doubling his business in a month's time is unrealistic because he doesn't have the same level of momentum that the other guy did.
Yeah.
And so it comes to, if you want to work with us, it all depends. I mean, it might not be a good fit, but if you don't have the right database, it's just a matter of making sure that your expectations are aligned. It's like, I don't have a database. That means there's a lot of foundational stuff that I need to build. And I got to put, the cornerstone in place in order to build my empire on top of, and I get that. And I'm okay with that. It might take me a little while, but I'm definitely going to be a hell of a lot better off having worked with you than not worked with you at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the first questions when I bring a new client on, my job as an ad manager person is to find the lowest hanging fruit just from the outset, so they can immediately get a return. And so one of the first questions I ask people is, what assets have you got? Have you got a database that I can upload to Facebook and then straight away, target those people? Have you got a remarketing list that I can straight away hit some remarketing ads because they're the ones that are going to work the best? Or are you big on Facebook where we can target your fans, and that's where we can get the lowest hanging fruit. And without that, my job is so much harder. It's not that it's not worth doing, but as you say, there's unrealistic expectations if you haven't got some existing assets in place that we can just get that lowest hanging fruit.
I love that you just talked about that, because that's actually the topic of a newsletter that I'm writing right now, is on this whole idea of traffic and the low-hanging fruit. Because, Alana, you are one of the few people that actually get it, right? Because most people will immediately go to Facebook and they'll spend their first advertising dollars on cold traffic.
It's crazy.
And it's like, wait a minute, but you've got a list of, X amount of thousands of people in your database that, if you're lucky, you've got a 20% open rate. That means 80% of the people aren't even seeing your emails, but they already are familiar with you and are more likely to buy from you than not. They've already raised their hand. They're already a targeted market.
That's right.
Why don't you up those into Facebook and target them first? Because you know what? If you can't make money with those people, then why are you going to try to go through the headache of testing different markets and
testing
different
targeting and testing offers? If your offer won't convert for those assets, then it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to convert the cold people.
Exactly. And it's like, pixels, right? People are coming to your website and they walk away. Well, what are you doing to retarget them? They've already been to your website. What are you doing to bring them back? Nothing.
Yeah.
And so you're going to spend all this money. See, people are so, and I don't want to insult those people that, most of the time it's just, they don't. They don't
know the power that you can do.
Yeah, they just don't know. It's actually, I blame the guru world, right? Because the guru world, they're going to sell you a Facebook strategy. They're going to sell you a Pinterest strategy, an Instagram strategy, a Twitter strategy, a native advertising strategy, and they got all these different strategies, but nobody thinks in terms of systems.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, when you really think about it, if you have a database that of warm traffic and 80% of the people aren't even seeing your emails, what can you do? You go over to Facebook and you create a campaign, but then there's effective frequency in place where the more you show the ad, the higher the conversion rate. So why not, approach other remarketing sites like AdRoll, Perfect Audience, and whatnot, or Google Content, the GDN network, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're doing retargeting across the board. So now people are seeing your ad more and more and more. They get warmed up. They get more likely to do business with you. And then what about, let's say you are going to end up paying for some Google search terms, which are awesome. Somebody's looking for, a dentist in Sydney. What better search term than, looking up dentist in Sydney? Somebody's, obviously they're looking for, a dentist in Sydney. And so then somebody goes to the website, but then they leave. They don't submit their information right away. You retarget them. And so it's like there's a whole system in place. You don't just do one thing.
Yeah.
Because you're going to sub-optimize your results if you do one thing and you do one thing only. You got a list of buyers, right? If you're an e-commerce company, you got a list of buyers. You can use that list of buyers, build a momentum off the list of buyers to create a custom audience that matches that exact profile and advertise across the board and
show them related products. And you know what? We remarket in conjunction with email marketing for the very reason on Facebook that people will share the ad. And this happens all the time. We've got this client that there's a whole email marketing funnel and the sort of the final offer in the funnel we then show an ad for, and people are sharing that final offer. I want to give them a hug. It's amazing.
It's so smart.
So clever. And no one's going to forward an email, but all they're going to do is hit that share button and it's then distributed to all their network and endorsed by them.
So it's now free. Free advertising.
That's right. Free advertising of the final offer.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But it's sometimes it's just a matter of thinking a little bit differently, right?
Mm.
Full circle all the way back to Apple. What is Apple's tagline, or what has it been forever? Think different.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Think, and right now we tend to also consider, where everybody right now they got tunnel vision. And so
I think there's also a lot of noise in the market. And as you say, gurus are to blame, and we won't mention any names, but they're really kind of ruining the good advice that's out there, because I think there's some really bad advice floating around.
Absolutely. And most of it is self-serving advice try to just sell another program or sell another course. And get that, I get that, but at the same time, if they had the attitude of creating raving fans as opposed to just another client, then their approach would be slightly different.
Well, they have a short-term view, really, in that just getting the sale straight away with no concept of the lifetime value of a customer is worth a hell of a lot more than the short-term gain. And if you look after people, then you have a customer for life.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're about to see that whole everything that you're talking about short-term views and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and whatnot. There are more companies springing up right now in that industry than it reminds me of so many other industries where people see money and opportunity, and it's going to be difficult to cut through to find out who the real players are, where you can get real value, real information.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's going to negatively impact the industry. Let's talk about something crazy.
Okay.
Did you hear, speaking of Bitcoin, did you hear about Agora's latest webinar and the results that they did?
No, I did not.
So Agora is one of the most brilliant direct response marketers on the planet. $1 billion company.
Yep. There's
so much you could study from Agora. They ran a webinar. I'm going to have you guess. Okay, they ran a Bitcoin webinar.
Wow. I'm
just going to have you guess, and how many people do you think they had registered on the webinar? And I want you to think high. Well, webinar. I mean, you've ran webinars before. You know what it's
Hundreds.
like to get a webinar. Yeah. How many people do you think they had registered on the webinar?
Wow. 100,000?
225,000.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Now you're ready. Imagine having 225,000. I mean, holy cow. I don't know what I would do if I had 225,000 people on a webinar.
That's like a stadium of people. More.
Holy cow. I know, right? 225,000 people. The information that I received, and so this is what I received, and I know they did really well. I got this from a very reputable source.
So hang on a minute. Were you one of the 225,000?
I wasn't, but I got the replay so I could study it, because when you hear these numbers, you're going to know why.
Okay.
I understand, and again, don't quote me on this. This is just what I heard, that they did $1 million in sales within the first 30 minutes and $11 million in the first 24 hours.
That's insane.
But the funny thing is, and that's amazing, and it really is extraordinary. It goes to show you about the power of the offer and whatnot. And everybody then wants to know how they get the 225,000 people to attend the webinar.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with forming these joint venture partners, right? A lot of them reached out, joint venture partners, and said, hey, look, would be willing to compensate you royally if you'd be willing to send some leads over our way, and so forth. And so, and then they did, as I understand it, quite a bit of advertising, and their partners did quite a bit of advertising and whatnot, but they created quite an extraordinary event. And I just find that awesome. You just never hear of, unless it's Apple or whatnot, you just never hear of an online media buying frenzy from a webinar like that.
Yeah. But Bitcoin is all the rage at the moment. It'd be interesting what happens with that. That's probably another topic.
Yeah, I know. But we can go on and on. You and I could carry on this conversation for the next 3 days.
It's true. I could talk to you endlessly, Charlie, and I am very mindful of your time. So you've been very, very generous with your time and of course, your knowledge. So I want to say thank you for coming on today's show. Where can people find out more information about you and what you do?
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to go to my website at predictableprofits.com, and depending on when you go there, there's typically a button somewhere in there where they could book a call, and we'll be more than happy to jump on the phone with you and just kind of talk things through, find some clarity, see if there's a way that first of all, see how much opportunity exists in your business. And if there's enough opportunity and we think that we can help you, because we guarantee all our results, we'll only extend an invitation if we think we can help you, and kind of go from there. But yeah, predictableprofits.com is the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And I'm sure your book, Predictable Profits Playbook, is available from the usual sources.
From the usual sources for sure. Kindle, paperback, Amazon, the whole deal. So yeah.
Awesome. Charlie, it's been a pleasure talking to you. As I said, I could talk with you endlessly, but we'll finish up there. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening to the Teach Traffic podcast. For more information on each of these episodes and handy PDFs that you can download, head on over to teachtraffic.com.